Hey, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Friday, folks. Hallelujah, right? If you missed it last night in the NBA, the Knicks closed out their series as the Pacers did. Also, the Toronto Maple Leafs, J.C. Deacon's team up in Canada, has come back and tied that series up and goes to Game 7. If you missed it last night, Gators did not play Tennessee, got rained out. Doubleheader today, starting at 3 o'clock, first pitch. I didn't even know it was supposed to rain last night. Andy says, we got our guy from USC, the big offensive lineman, Jason Zandamela. Yes, we did. So congratulations to that kid on signing with the Mighty Gators. We'll have Steve Russell, second portion of today's show. We're supposed to have Ernest Graham this morning. Something came up. So you're stuck with me. We'll get to questions and comments. Got a bunch of texts we can get to as well. The Kentucky Derby is tomorrow, I believe. I don't know anything about horse racing, but I'll give you my picks just in case. Christopher says, good morning. Two good pickups for the Gators yesterday. One kid that they also got is not going to be playing on the team this year. He's, I think, a 2025 kid. So there it is. I got a bunch of texts, as I mentioned, to get to. Softball also cranks up a huge series against Texas A&M in Gainesville. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They still have an outside shot to win the regular SEC title, but A&M is a very good softball team. So what a great week if you want to watch Gator baseball and softball. Also give a shout out to the lacrosse team. Speaking of that, we had a text on the Titan Mark text line from Jeremy in Charlotte. He says, congrats to the Gator lacrosse team. Do you think UF will ever have a men's lacrosse team? No, I do not. It's a whole Title IX deal. It would not surprise me in the future that some of these non-revenue sports go away, unfortunately. But it's cool that I think Vanderbilt and us are the only women's lacrosse teams in the SEC. We play in a different conference, but they've had a good year so far. Tony wants to know, is JC finally returning from protesting on college campuses all week? He'll be back Monday. We'll let you. He'll fill us in on what he's been up to. I don't know if he's been protesting or not, but I got my Ole Miss shirt on. I don't know if anybody saw some clips on Twitter or on the news from Oxford, but kudos to those kids, those students there in Oxford. I still don't understand this whole thing. It just blows my mind. There's not a damn thing protesting is going to do. And, but whatever, we're not going to talk about that. Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, NCAA looking to settle for 2.78, is that million, with a ceiling of 20 million for athletes getting paid. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, they're getting paid now. We all know. And, yeah, Andy says that GoFundMe for the UNC frat boys party is over $500,000 now. Yeah, I saw John Rich. He's having a concert for these kids. So good for them. Absolutely good for them. All right, let's get to some information here or some text on the Titan MR text line. Let's see what we got here starting us out. Josh in Mississippi says, do I know Chris Bridgeau? He was an offensive guard for LSU in the late 80s. He's my son's orthodontist. I do not know him. Tell him I said hello, though. I do not know him. All right. This is from a 904, no name. Says, hope the Vols don't crush the Gators in 3 games. The Vols are really good. They are. They definitely are. They're a good baseball team, but listen, anything can happen. We've played better baseball of late. We've pitched it well. I think we're going to play pretty decent this weekend. Russell's question on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says, good morning, Shane. I'm confused because I read on Gator Victorious that the ASU wide receiver failed the physical, but now it's reported that he's setting up a visit. Any insight? I have none. I will try to find out. Yeah, I'll just try to find out. All right, so let's get a couple of more of these texts on the Titan MR text line. Some of these comments crack me up. This is from Walker. He says it's absolutely insane how much coaches are making these days. Kirby Smart now making $13 million in a year is ridiculous. Well, I understand where you're going. In the real world, it is ridiculous, but all the money that is generated by football programs through TV, conferences, winning national titles, it increases enrollment at the schools, all that stuff. He's the top coach in America right now. And it is crazy. 13 million is a lot of money to coach football, but he's got a lot of responsibility. I hear where you're coming from, Walker, but it's only continue going up. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go down. Larry says his question for me on YouTube. It's early, folks, on the Titan MR text line. Shane, how much do you think DJ Lagway will play this year? He reminds me of Donovan McNabb. He's built like Donovan McNabb. You're right. Very thick individual. I've mentioned this multiple times. I personally don't think he's going to play a lot this year. You know, people talk about the packages. I will just say this, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I was on teams in the National Football League that drafted kids in the first round, quarterbacks in the first round at four of my places, 4 stops. And and I actually, out of those 4 stops, I played in 2 of them. Only one of them implemented the let's give him a series. It was always going to be like the 3rd series of the game. There's nothing worse for your football team when that happens, because if you have good rhythm going, it screws the rhythm up. If they punt it and they down it on the 2-yard line, now you're throwing a kid who's not ready in from his own 2-yard line. Now, if things aren't going well, you can say, well, he could come in and spark the offense. I get it. I personally don't like that. I think if you do see him, that's what they're going to do. I know people want to say Chris leaked Tim Tebow, blah, blah, blah. Tim was a different dude. They never really asked him to throw the football ever. He was a fullback coming in to get 1 or 2 yards most of the time. So back to your question. Right now, I don't think he's going to play very much. You got a damn good quarterback. They trust that quarterback. He's the leader of your team, and I think Graham Mertz plays a lot. So, I mean, obviously, the way things start out, we'll see, but it's I don't think he plays. Andrew says we should be focused on keeping him in Gainesville and health this year. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, if they get rid of Billy Napier, people run Billy Napier on. DJ Lagway's gone, folks. Matt on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. How does golf national championship work? How do the Gators qualify? So they'll have regionals. I'm not sure if the matchups and the sites have come out yet where the Gators are going to play. I know the girls team starts this week, I believe. They've had a much better year than anticipated. They lost a ton of studs off last year's team. It's golf though, and they made a really good run at Vanderbilt last week. Probably the worst team they could have matched up with. Joseph said, I wouldn't be surprised if Lagway gets the job. Well, it went away. I'll have to pull it up on Facebook on my phone. I don't know why it does this. Bear with me here while I pull that up so I can read the comments. All right, here we go.
Comments?
Here we go. Okay, apologize for that, but
All right.
technical difficulties.
Here we go. Okay. We're looking into the.
Okay. So, Joseph, I wouldn't be surprised if Lagway gets the job before the season is over. A lot on the line for Billy if things go like they have the past 2 years. Okay, Joseph, quit being negative. That's just a negative comment right there. We could be 5-0. We could be 5-0. We could also be 2-3. But I'm telling you, we're going to be favored in the first 5 games. I expect us to win them. Expect us to win them. Tony says the girls are regionals at Purdue. Hopefully, it's not chilly up there. Tim says Shane also said Lagway wouldn't start in the spring game. Tim, I don't know what program you listen to, but I did not say that. I said he's going to start for one team, and Graham Mertz will start for the other. That's exactly what happened. Andy says, did you see that Justin Fields may be returning kicks for the Steelers? Did you ever play another position in grade school or high school? There is no way. I did not see that, Andy, but there is no way that they put a quarterback back there to return kickoffs. There's no way. I played in junior high football, and it wasn't Pop Warner where I played, but all the tackle little football leagues. I played safety and I played quarterback. In junior high, though, I did return punts. I did not return them. I caught the punt. We had none of our fast dudes could catch the punt. So they put me back there to catch the punt, and then I just turn around and lateral it to our fast dudes. I was fast back then too, though, but I never returned it. I just caught the punt. I either fair caught it or I would catch it and turn around, pitch it to somebody and let them run it. But I just don't see how that's possible. Remember, they are grown ass men in that league that play defense and special teams that are trained killers to take out players. And you can't put, even if it feels as your backup, you can't put him on there. Joseph wants to know, can Baker Sporting Goods get baseball jersey? Yes, we do stuff very fast. So I didn't know Joe Theismann returned kicks when he was the third guy. I learned something today. So, all right, let's get back to the Titan MR text line. Y'all don't hear about me returning punts or catching punts. Not sure. This is from 941. People have to understand that if Lagway is put in the game, Mertz has to come out, and we don't want that. Mertz is the most efficient passer in the NCAA. It's all about the new toy. You know, people rather see DJ run for 45 yards and throw 3 incompletions. I am a firm believer of that. Fans in today's world, mostly the young people, the young fans, they get so excited when a quarterback takes off running. I've never understood that. Never, ever understood that. Again, the quarterback's job is to complete passes, not freaking take off running the football. Daryl says, Shane, my son and I are going to Luke Combs tonight. How about you? I'm not. I saw Luke Combs in Tampa last year with Riley Green and Laney Wilson. I don't know who he has with him this year, but you will enjoy that, Daryl. He puts on a tremendous show and really good concert. You'll like that. All right, on the Titan MR text line from Kelly. Shane, why do you always say we can't sign everybody? In quotations. Shane, you do realize we haven't signed anybody. Quit making excuses for Napier. Well, Kelly, I've never made an excuse. I don't get into recruiting, but you can't sign everybody. You only have 85 scholarships, my friend. And you got to remember, Kelly, you may be a Gator fan. Not every kid that rolls into town is a Gator fan. That kid has other opportunities, and he's going to take the most money or the best opportunity for him and go play for that team. So that is no bearing on the damn coach, the school, or any of that. I don't understand how people cannot figure that out. If that was the case, Alabama would have had 500 players on their team if they could sign everybody. They can't sign everybody. Appreciate the text, though, Kelly. But You can't sign everybody. I'm sorry. Oh man. Barone 71 on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says Mertz is the man. 6-year senior with Mertz experience is far better suited to start in the SEC than any true freshman. Lagway will get his and learn. I agree. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. Don't forget, we're going to have Steve Russell. We're going to talk Gator baseball, SEC baseball, some other stuff with him. Second portion of today's program. Apologize that we're supposed to have Ernest Graham. Didn't work out. We'll get him back on. He's a busy man for sure. Baron says, I tell my nephew all the time, we are the Gators, but if you're being recruited, sign with the program that wants you the most. That right there, like I said, the Gators could want you a lot, but in today's world, it may not be on the dotted line financially fit into their plans, and you go elsewhere. So C. Irby says we can't sign anybody. We signed the number one QB, the number one D line, and now the number one offensive lineman. If you're going to say something negative, at least know the facts. Good grief. Good point. Very good point. JB on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Laws. Cole Cubitt said on his podcast, the Gators will surpass expectations this year. Really complimented our running backs, especially Ball. Yes, our running back, I stated to y'all last year when ETN left, wouldn't miss a beat. The two true freshmen are outstanding. And obviously, Montrell is a solid running back, does so many things well that the average fan probably doesn't see because it's not on the news, it's not in the stat line, but he does all the little things that are very, very important when it comes to playing running back. On the Titan Mark text line, Bobby in Montgomery, Alabama. What's the one game or the most important game for you on this year's schedule? Ooh, that's a good question, Bobby. I'm going to say the Miami Hurricane game. And the reason why is we got to win. It's at home. It's game one. You have to win that game. So I'm going to say that's the number one game on my radar. And then we'll talk after that one. But I'm going with number one. Joseph says, Shane, did you see where Keon Coleman blamed Georgia for FSU getting snubbed in the playoffs? He said maybe someone needs to look into why Georgia always chokes against Bama. Well, they did beat Bama one time. Keon Coleman's a character now. He is a character for sure. All right, tropical smoothie. You live a healthier lifestyle with our bold, flavorful smoothies and our amazing food. Tropical smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. George on the Titan MR text line. Good question, Shane. How much preparation do you do for the season or each game when it comes to the radio broadcast? Not a whole lot, George. As a color analyst, our job is to recite what we just saw for the people that aren't watching the game, try to paint a picture the best that you can. For Sean, he has to know all the more of the players. He has to it's more difficult. I watch a lot of college football, so I know most of the players on all the teams. But yeah, you just kind of say what you just saw or what should have happened or what you thought should have happened. But it's basically I'm watching the game just like you guys and just have to repeat it very quickly before the next play. Dan says, Shane, what would you do during a long lightning delay during a game? I don't know if I've ever experienced one of those, Dan. I did coaching high school football, which is a disaster because come September, in the state of Florida, especially when all those kickoff classics start in the first couple of weeks of the season, there's going to be so many games delayed. It's miserable when you have to go in those hot, smelly locker rooms in high school. But baseball's different. Baseball, they got ping pong tables, they got all kinds of stuff they can go in there and hang out. Tony makes a great point. Back in my day, there were no lightning delays. That is very true. Yeah, I don't remember any games being delayed or canceled due to lightning or rain or any of that stuff. It's changed different in today's world. Jerry says, QB, describe your day on game day when you're calling the game. What is your routine? Oh, yeah, Jerry, good question. So, a home game, this is how the home game works. I have to be with my man Steve Russell in the student union 4 hours before kickoff because we do an hour pregame show before it goes to the Cardozo pregame show on the Gator Radio Network. So after that, I'll walk over to my tailgating spot with my buddies for a little bit, and then I go up about an hour before kickoff, eat whatever they have in the press box, and then go into the broadcast booth with the fellas and call the game. Road game, obviously I'm with the team at the team hotel. I usually get up, I go for a jog, or I go into the workout room. There's tons of people in there, players, coaches. Get a little workout in, eat. We get on the bus. The road games are tough because you have to get to the ballpark so early and there's not a whole lot to do. So I usually walk around the field, take some pictures, go up into the press box, talk to the other color analysts a little bit. You know, you may talk, if Jesse Palmer's doing the game, talk to Jesse for a little bit and then call the game. So that's kind of the same routine, whether it's a home game or an away game. But good question. Good question. Richard says, I'm glad it's Friday. Me too, buddy. Golf day. Time to go play some golf. All right. Let me get to another tight number text line. Remember, we're going to have Steve Russell. He won't bore y'all like me. Apologize for today. Josh says, Shane, why do some Gator fans seem like they want the program to fail? Geez, folks, get behind our head coach or quarterback in our team because they want a new coach. And then when that coach comes in, if it doesn't work out after year one, they want another new coach. Billy Napier's not going anywhere, people. This is Brett and Jax. He says, tell Kelly it's not 1975 when the Bear is signing 120 players. He's referring to him being upset about why we're not signing enough players. All right. This is from William. It says, Shane, do you know I was reading another text. Hang on. Shane, do you know that there are many players in the SEC making more money in NIL than CAGs, referring to Gator baseball? Yes, I am aware of that, and it is mind-boggling. But there are multiple players throughout the SEC making more money than CAGs for whatever reason. CAGs is clearly the best player in the league. I think it's going to come down between him and the kid from Georgia for SEC Player of the Year, even though CAGs pitches. It's going to come down to the last series because remember the Gators have the Vols, Kentucky, and then in the regular season with the Georgia Bulldogs. So it could be that series to determine who the SEC Player of the Year. Justin on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says the coaching staff's job to convince the players they want to sign with the Gators. If your NIL won't be sufficient to sign the kid, the staff needs to move on. See, I disagree with that, Justin. Again, I don't know how else to put it. Okay, I want to use me for example. My dad played at Ole Miss. My mom was a cheerleader at Ole Miss. I grew up going to all the games in Oxford after every game on Friday night with my parents. It didn't even have to be in Oxford. It could be all over the Southeast. Okay. So do you think that coaching staff, with all my Ole Miss ties, do you think they should have lost their job because I didn't sign with them, even though I was born an Ole Miss Rebel? No, it's the player's decision to decide what they're going to do with their life. Doesn't matter what Billy Napier, I mean, look, they do a tremendous job. I will tell you that I have inside sources that have heard from Trevor Etienne that he has told our players that we do everything exactly like Georgia does in their program, and wonder why, because you got two guys from the Nick Saban tree. But my point to the story is, yes, the coaches are responsible for bringing players in. But again, you can't bring everybody in. Just because kids are coming on visits doesn't mean we actually want those guys, because we may not even have a spot for them but we're going to bring them in. We're going to talk to them. We're going to look at them in person. They're going to weigh them. They're going to get their wingspan, their hand size. They're going to do all of that. But I'm perfect example. I did not go where everybody thought I was going. So I don't put it on the coach. It's up to that kid, that individual, that family to decide where they want to go. And if a kid leaves, that's what he and his family decided, and it's no bearing on the coach or the university. That it is what it is. Paul says, greetings from the Panhandle. Is there a source that lists all the NIL payments? No, it's I don't think there is, Paul. But it's more word of mouth. And I've heard that there's a lot of people in baseball in the SEC making more than him. I know that for sure. So let's get to This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. It's a bad day, folks, because every time I do this Day in Sports again, it goes away. So bear with me. Again, we're gonna have Steve Russell here in just a minute. We're gonna talk a little Gator baseball, big series tonight, a doubleheader starting at 3 o'clock today at Conjuring Ballpark that we need to win this series. I think we're gonna play good baseball. Although somebody texted me said we're gonna get swept. Negative Nellies out there. 2014, the 140th running of the Kentucky Derby, Victor Espinoza aboard California Chrome wins. And that will happen tomorrow. And speaking of that, the Kentucky Derby, the favorite, I have pulled that up. The favorite is Sierra Leone at 3-1. There's a lot of 20s and 50, 30s to 1. So the Fearness is 5-2. The 9-horse Encino is 20-1. I'm going to take the 9-horse in the upset. Catching Freedom is 8-1. Like I said, I don't know anything about the Kentucky Derby, but fun to watch, fun to get dressed up, I guess. And if you do that, have fun tomorrow. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout, and we're going to come back, and we're going to be joined by Steve Russell from ESPN, WRUF, also broadcasts Gator baseball games. Get his thoughts on the weekend series, pitching matchups, all that good stuff. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service, while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and it's our man Steve Russell from WRUF and ESPN Radio, the Steve Russell Show. No, it's not the Steve Russell. Sports Scene with Steve Russell. The Dean of Sports. How we doing, Steve?
Hey, Jada, I'm doing good.
Hey, before we jump into it, I got to get to this YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Says right here, where'd it go? Oh, Michael wants to know, Shane, did you ever enjoy playing in any kind of inclement weather conditions? We as fans think it's great football weather when it's snowing hard. The answer would be, did I enjoy it? No, hell no. Now, I will say this. If it's 35 to 40 degrees raining, that's miserable. I'd rather it be snowing hard because it's not as bad. But the answer to that is no. All right, Steve. First of all, before we jump into baseball, big pickup for Gator football yesterday. Big offensive lineman. I mean, man, it's tough to come in this late in the year and get some playing time, but it can happen. Any chance this kid helps out this year?
I think that's the plan, Shane. I mean, look, that unit can use help. It was sort of banged up, for the spring game. We saw that. So if nothing else, a depth piece, but I think it's more than that. Very sought after guy. Now we know how that goes, right? You can be sought after and not play well, or vice versa. But on the surface of it, this late in the process, that's nice get.
Yeah, it really is. All right. So are you on the call tonight?
Got both of them.
Got both games. Okay. So first pitch is at 3:00. I guess Capolo was set to start last night. Obviously, I'm sure he went through his warm-up period and then bam, the weather came. What is the status on him? Is he still planning to start game one?
As far as I know, he is. And remember, he's still coming off, that major injury that he had. He's pitched a little bit better each time out. And his breaking pitch against Arkansas was, I think, the best it's been since he's, come back. So I think realistically, and remember, yesterday he was going to pitch on one less day rest because it was a Thursday game. Now it's back to the normal, week. So I think that'll help a little bit, but they got to get a good start from him. They can't afford, to get behind. They just have to get a good start from him to kind of set the tone.
Yeah, Gators sit at 23-21. Next couple of weeks are huge. You got Tennessee, really good team. Kentucky's played good baseball as well, and then you end the season with Georgia. I think I've mentioned this. You have to have above 500 or above to make the NCAA tournament. Is that correct, Steve?
Overall, yes.
Right.
Now
Overall.
you can be below that in the league. Correct. And still make it. And I think that's the number Florida's got to shoot for in the league. If they get to 14 wins with their strength of schedule, which was number one last I looked, if not it's in the top 5, then they're going to make a regional. They won't host it. They'll probably go to Tallahassee if I had to guess. But yeah, that's why the midweek games, I caught a lot of flack for that because early in the year I said they didn't matter. And most of the time they don't matter. This year, they matter because of, what's transpired in the league.
I said the same thing. I get blasted about the midweek games. I'm like, they don't matter because they usually don't.
No, 9 times out of 10, they don't matter a lick.
Yeah. All right. So we got Tennessee in. Obviously, I don't want to say that there's bad blood between these two teams, but I think it's just the way that Tennessee has played the last couple of years, that cocky attitude. What can you tell us about the Vols to watch in this series?
They don't have the same swagger that, whatever you want to use that word, that they've had in the past. I think that was a pretty unique group there. Vitello, the coach, done a nice job there. He's kind of toned his act down a little bit now. It's not to say there can't be fireworks, sometime this weekend, but they're a good team. And obviously, when you're fighting for a conference championship in this league, you're doing something right. They hit the ball very well. All the home runs Florida hits, Tennessee has more. Now, part of that is their ballpark. When the wind, it's a short ballpark. Wind blows out there. The ball travels there. But they're a good team. And again, if you're Florida, if you can get 2 here at home, that's what you want to do. If you can sweep them, fine, but if you want 2 at home.
I wanted to ask you, we had a text on this. I'm going to kind of expand on it regarding the so-called cheating scandal that I think it was A&M's coach came out and said it will come out that somebody's batting average at home is like night and day compared to on the road, and they had a feed going into their locker room or their dugout. Can you fill us in on what's going on with that?
Yeah, Schlossnagel's the coach. Really good coach, by the way. And he, on his radio show, he has a radio show, and he came out and threw this out from like literally left field that, you know, there's a team in our league that has a live video feed, which is not allowed. It's no coincidence that they're hitting 100 points higher at home than they are on the road. He never identified the team. And we also saw what happened when Florida played Vanderbilt, when their pitcher was caught cheating by Florida and, you know, was removed from the game. Shane, look, I think it's naive to think that some of that is not going on. It's just a matter of getting caught. There was video of Georgia, of a reliever that was warming up in the bullpen, who was putting, allegedly, some kind of substance on his glove. So it's up to the umpires now, I think. Look, I think the league, if they're aware of this, should say to the umpires, you better be looking for this. You better be looking for anything that, you know, might be a little out of the ordinary, because in the big leagues, they check for that now. They don't at the college level.
Looking at this Gator baseball team, obviously it's been somewhat disappointing. I mean, it's like you pitch well one night, then you can't hit the baseball. It's like they've never put it together. I feel like they've played a little bit better the last couple of games. But I try to tell people, Steve, you and I kind of have the same thought process. I mean, you lost so many good players last year, you know, Rivera, BT, obviously Wyatt Langford. Those guys just don't roll off the pickup truck. You know, they're pretty damn good players, and to replace them is difficult. Yeah, you got Cags, but when you look at this team so far this year, can they make a run in your opinion?
They can, but it will take everything to go just right, because not that you can't change who you are, but, you know, we're what, 40 something games into the season. So what is Florida right now? They're a team that's last in the league in team earn run average. They're a team that hits a lot of home runs, but strikes out a lot. Good fielding team, good, and most Kevin O'Sullivan teams are. But over the course of a year, Shane, you can win 8 in a row as much as you can lose 8 in a row. So to me, if they make the postseason, I'm telling that team, it doesn't matter what you've done. It matters what you do now. You made it. You made it. Get hot and play good baseball. But it's hard because, again, the fans are so used to this team being so good. It's the first time really since 2013 that Florida struggled like this. But as you said, and what you didn't mention is the 2 pitchers,
right? That's
I left them off. Who, you know, went out there and stuffed it down somebody's throat most days for 6 innings. They don't have that guy right now. They just don't.
Yeah, player of the year, it's pretty much between Cags and the kid from Georgia, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and that I wish I was calling that series. That's going to be worth the price of admission, going in there to see those 2 guys, you know, go head to head. A lot on the line for both teams because Georgia's fighting, you know, to make the postseason too. Condon leads Cags in most of the stat categories right now, not by a lot, but in most of the batting average, you know, home runs, he's a little ahead of him. So for player of the year, I'm interested to see if he gets penalized, if he does beat Cags out in those offensive categories, because Cags does something that's very difficult to do, which is to pitch and hit. I think that helps Cags out a lot.
Cags needs to just strike him out every time, right?
Yeah, that would help too. Yeah.
So, you know, I think was when Georgia played A&M, I saw a clip. And I went back to my church league softball days, Steve. They had 4 dudes in the outfield. I've never seen that in college baseball.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because he just launched it over the scoreboard.
Yeah. And that's what happens, right? That when you play Cags, if you shift on him, guess what? you can't shift over the fence,
Right.
right? You can't shift that far. So, but I am a little bit surprised that more teams don't try to pitch Cags down and away. And if they do, they're not very successful at it. He still has that long reach. He's so strong, he can still take that pitch and pull it and hit it over the fence. But I'm just a little bit surprised more teams haven't fed him sort of off-speed stuff down and away to see if he can make. But he's got a great eye for a guy that hits a lot of home runs.
We had a question on Facebook Live. It went away. I can't find it, but it was regarding what your thoughts on how he will transition to playing with a wooden bat.
I don't think that will be an issue. I think the thing that scouts look at is going to be what his swing and miss rate might be, at a higher level. Nobody questions his power. Nobody questions the fact he's a very, very hard worker, and for what he does, Shane, he's a great kid. He's just a fun kid to be around. But I think if there is a question, it's the swing and miss. How will he adjust to, better pitching? But he's going to be a top 10 pick. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
No, yeah, I agree. Your thoughts on give me your thoughts of the SEC right now. I think A&M is the #1 team in America, at least the last poll I looked at. Can one of these teams win the national title?
Yes, A&M can. I'm not convinced Arkansas can after what I saw against Florida, because Arkansas is really one-dimensional. They pitch great and don't hit much. And I'm not saying you can't go on a streak, Shane, and win every game, 5-2 or something. But in the end, I think that generally catches up with you, because if your pitcher has a bad day, then you make up for it on the offensive side of the ball. A&M can do that. I think Florida caught A&M at a great time. The kid that started when Florida racked him up when he started here, that was his worst start of the year. He's been great since then. So sometimes it's when you play somebody and when you catch them. Florida got him at home, but I think A&M can win it. I think really that's the team I would say in our league that can win the whole thing. Can Tennessee make a run? Yeah. I'm not sure about Kentucky now, because they're starting to play a little bit down based on the competition they're facing. The easier part of their schedule was early. So if I had to pick one team out of our league, A&M.
Rosogro State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. A few more minutes with the Dean of Sports Talk, Steve Russell, here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tim. I wanted to ask you, I've had multiple people throughout the year, Sully's recruiting. Do you think with the new NIL, he will change his thought process? I know he's always wanted to get studs out of high school, but there could be a kid you look at, we took a kid from Southern Miss a couple years ago, but those small mid-majors that have just studs that can throw on Friday nights. Do you think Sully will start looking around the country for some kids like that may want to come pitch at Florida?
This is probably, Shane, the thing I think that's most misunderstood about Sully. Let me explain. People forget we had a kid here coming to pitch from UCLA. He was coming here, right? He signed really late in the process, unexpectedly, okay? Gator shortstop, where's he from, right? There are transfers on this team. The problem is that nobody wants to talk about is that, at least before, I'm not sure going forward, but this past year, Florida did not compete when it came to money. They were lacking it. And believe me, Kevin O'Sullivan is not happy about that. Let me throw a number out at you. If I said to you, when Mississippi State came here, their Friday night guy was a transfer from Purdue. Okay? He had more NIL money than Cags. More NIL money than the possible National Player of the Year. So if you can't compete, and whether you like it, whether you don't, you have to have NIL money now. Do I ever foresee the day when Sully has a roster full of that? No. I think he still looks at high school talent and evaluates that. But I do think if the NIL money gets increased, you'll see more guys come in here via transfer. Yes.
I'm glad somebody else said that, not me on my show, because I say it all the time about the money. Speaking of Mississippi State, I think it's their Saturday night star, the kid that throws left-handed and right-handed. Steve, have you ever seen that at this high level? Guy,
No.
I mean, this dude threw gas both sides of the mound.
Yeah, I did that game, and he was really fun to watch, and he was good that night too. He's going to be a draft. There's no question he's going to be drafted. Now, will he do that in pro ball? Probably not, but it is kind of fun to see because you just don't see that, and he was, really effective. And speaking of Mississippi State, Shane, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I think we're seeing a pattern here. Ole Miss won the national championship, 2 years ago? They've struggled ever since, or 3 years ago, I said. Mississippi State, right? They won it. Last year, they struggled mightily. They should be an NCAA tournament team this year. Look at LSU.
Yeah.
Look at LSU. They're terrible, right? And they have NIL money. So when you win like that, and you lose the talent, the LSU lost Skeens and all those guys, right? Like to your point, they just don't come off the tree every year and say, come in and, play like this. It's tough, man. It's tough to maintain that. And with Florida, this is the first time in 10 years, 11 years that they've struggled to this point. It's a pretty good track record, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Before we let you go, you've called some softball games as well. Tim's girls sit at 40-12. They still have an outside shot of winning the SEC regular season. A lot of stuff has to happen, but good series this weekend against A&M coming here. But this team, to me, is fun to watch. Now, obviously, pitching has been kind of poor at times, but these two true freshmen are really good. I think they may have run out of gas. I don't want to use that as an excuse, but it's been a long year for them. Just your thoughts on where the program sits right now heading into, I think this is the last series, then the tournament next week.
They get an A&M team that's playing the best of any team in the SEC. I think they had won 8 or 9 in a row last I looked. So they're catching a team that's playing really well right now. But look, just about anybody you play in the SEC is going to be pretty good. This offensive team, Shane, is incredible. It really is. I mean, you as a pitcher, sometimes you look at a lineup and go, I can get him. There ain't a lot of those in this Gator lineup. As a pitcher, you really have to concentrate all the time when pitching against this Gator lineup because they can, if you look at their numbers, Shane, they can beat you with home runs. They lead the league in steals. So if they don't hit home runs, they can small ball you. They can find different ways to beat you. They're a good defensive team. The concern is about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they were number 2 in the SEC in earned run average. Only Tennessee was better. They're like 8 or 9 now. So the pitching has suffered, but part of that is you're playing a Florida State team that can hit too, right? You're not playing Sisters of the Poor here. You're playing some pretty good teams. But I think now, unless that pitching gets straightened out, you're going to probably see more games that are, 8-4, those kinds of things. But the bottom line now is win, and Florida has a chance to win, and most importantly, be a regional host. And I hope that happens for them because if they host, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, before we get you go, text here on the Titan of our text line from Tim. He says, Steve, I want to know your thoughts on your Jets draft picks.
I got a friend that works for the Jets, and I emailed him and I said, in the first round, are they going to get Brock Bowers? Is that who they're, and he said, no, they're going to go for an offensive lineman. The owner is old school, and they saw what happened last year, to Rodgers. They're going to try to protect him. Well, the guy that they got apparently I may have this backwards. He's a tremendous run blocker, no, a pass blocker, but not a great run blocker. But he'll be insurance in case the 2 guys they signed get hurt because historically they haven't played a full year. So I get it. You got to protect the guy. They're all in, Tim, right now. They're all in on Aaron Rodgers. That's what this is about. So I think overall the draft was good. You know, as an offensive guy, would I have loved Brock Bowers there? You bet. But Brock Bowers doesn't matter if Aaron Rodgers is on his back. Good news is they finally have a guy in Tyrod Taylor that is serviceable, that if he does get hurt, he can step in there and play, where, you know, Zach Wilson, anybody else they had, forget it. So, yeah. And by the way, shout out to the Knicks. What a game last night. What a series. That was a trump. I'm glad they won, but just watching an NBA playoff series, wow, what a series.
Yeah, that series had a ton of Villanova boys playing in it on both
Yeah.
teams. All right. Last thing, Ricky Pearsall. I think it's a tremendous fit for him.
I do too. And look, you know how the league works, Shane. They won't come out and say it, but to me, one of those other guys has got to be moved, don't you think? Because if they're not, where do you put Pearsall, right? So to me, one of those guys is probably not going to be around, whether it be Samuel or the other guy, but it is a great fit. The system they run, I think, is very friendly to a guy like Pearsall. So yeah, I didn't think he'd be drafted that high. I mean, most of them going in the second round, but good for him and a great place.
Yeah. Tim says Tyrod was there last season. Now, he didn't play for the Jets last year.
No.
But... All right, Steve, good stuff as always. You have your show going today?
Yeah, I'm not sure how long yet because I got to
you got to get over to the ballpark.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, and Kentucky Derby's coming up this weekend, so we're gonna have a little. I know nothing. I don't know horses, but Dick Girardi's gonna come on and preview that. I've always wanted to call a horse race. That's a bucket list thing.
Do you practice? Do you practice that at home?
Yeah.
Down the stretch, stay calm.
I've done that at home, Shane. I 1 year. I'll be quick. 1 year, I got a list of the horses. Right. And I'm watching it as best I could with numbers. I'm calling the race as it's being run. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Good stuff, Steve. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks, Shannon.
That's the Dean of Sports Talk, Steve Russell. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of ComfortDip. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Have a great weekend. We'll have a lot to talk about on Monday with Gator baseball and Gator softball. Take care.